Hi my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Now I want to talk to you all about something. Now I have just been sat watching some Monkey Life, but I've muted the TV real quick. I did have my hair down, but it got really hot, so I've had to pull it up. But I just quickly want to discuss something with you. Now, I've had many years of this, many years, and I told you that I was going to do a video on this, going to do a video discussing about my parents' divorce, about my relationship with my mum, because in my assumptions video somebody had assumed that I never speak to my mum, and I explained that yes I do. You know, I do talk to her, but it's rare because we don't always get on, and you're about to hear the reason why. Now, I've not really gone anywhere. I've sat here for a while thinking, don't I film about it and post it now? You know, do I wait? And I'm thinking, but I've had years and years of this. You know, I just feel like it's about time I did this video. I've put it off and put it off and put it off for so long. And I just think now is a good time. So, other than all of that, let's get started. And wow, let's start with my parents' divorce first, before going into the relationship with my mum. But they sort of connect, and I don't think it really matters what I start with. But I feel like if I start with my parents' divorce, you will start to understand the relationship with my mum. Things will begin to unfold, and etc. etc. So, I don't know the exact year it was that my parents met, and then the year that they got married, and you know, stuff like that. I do know they were together and married for, I say a long time. It's not really a long time, but it was a long time for them, I suppose. But my dad wanted to better himself. He wanted to work extra hard to get a high national certificate to be able to do the job that he does. He did get a certificate. His picture is up in here on the wall. I would show you, but I'm not sure he would want it plastered online. It's on my Instagram, but I'm not sure he was too keen about that. It was a Father's Day. When it was Father's Day, I put it on Insta and tagged him in it and said Happy Father's Day. You know, we have a great relationship. So, and you'll hear why in a sec. So they had been together for some time. My mum did her catering, and she worked with my auntie, and a good friend of both of theirs that became my godmum, which I miss her so much. I'm not going to mention any names. I don't think it's appropriate. I'm not really going to do that. But my mum was single at the time, and I think she was talking about how nice it would be to meet a nice man, and my auntie at the time just said, My brother's single. He's really nice. He's, trying to sell him to her. So she said, I have a picture. When we're next at work, I will come in with the picture and I'll show you what he looks like, and we can go from there. And their next working day shift, she brought in a picture of him, which I think was his high national certificate that came a bit later than that, which I'll discuss in a minute. Don't know what picture she showed. She might still have it, actually, unless we've now got it. I don't know, but my mum liked it and said, oh, that's a nice picture, he looks nice, I'd like to meet him. And they met and went on a few dates, I think, something like that. Anyway, my mum has this thing about not liking the idea of a man, or anyone, in particular a man, being smarter than her. And she's always been very like that. And well, where do I begin? Try not to get emotional, because I've not been ready to tell this story for years, and I finally get ready and I think, I'm not going to cry, I'm not going to get emotional. But right now I'm just like... Anyway, so they were together for a while, he proposed, blah blah blah. So, they got married at St. Boniface Church, which is later on became the place that I went to for my play school. Me and my brother both got christened there. It was a place, we liked it, a beautiful church building. Anyway, so she saw the idea of him getting smarter than her, getting his high national certificate. She was jealous and didn't like it, so she chose to go off with other people behind his back, other men behind his back, and did all sorts of horrible things, which I'm not going to go into depth because it is private and there's only so much I want to put online, I want to put out there. And it got to the point where he got really smart about it. Sometimes he would hear her on the phone chatting to certain men, this kind of thing. Not very nice. He wanted proof and, to have himself know, come on, this really is going on. You're not going insane. So he got some baby monitors, put them around the house. He heard certain things that were going on and thought, wow, I'm not just hearing things. Things are going on. Things are not right. And she carried on. It got to the point where she spent a lot of their money on these particular people to pay for university fees and for one particular person, which I'm not going to say the name again. I don't think it's appropriate to do that. It's just not me. I don't do that. And she did all sorts like that and left him financially no good, broken. And she would spend £900, £400 on the person, and then ranked up a phone bill of similar, and it was with their joint account, so he basically paid for it as well, and it got to the point where she did so much of this, being with other men behind his back, that he said to one man over the phone, I want a divorce, he's this and that, I've had enough. When he just wanted to go out to work and, provide for his family, for his wife that he committed to. to his children that he adored, that he still adores. I just, it was the worst time in my life. They would have their usual argument, but he would go off and go out and go for a drive in the car, and Mum would be begging for him to come back. We'd be begging, Dad, please don't go. But he would only go for an hour or 30 minutes for a bit of a drive, and he would come back home, and they would make up. Not in the way that you would think, only rarely, but I don't think if you knew your wife or husband was doing that behind your back with other people, would you want to do that with them yourself? Do you know what I mean? There's so much more to it. This is going to be a long video. I really hope that you don't mind. It's probably going to be the longest video I've ever made, but I don't want to go too much into detail, but there's so many different stories I'm going to put into this massive story. And it did also get to the point where my brother was 9 coming up 10, I was 8 coming up 9, and when my dad heard my mum say to one of the men she was speaking to and doing whatever it was to over the phone, she was in Mum and Dad's bedroom at the time, he was behind the bed, she didn't know that he was in there, and after she had certain activity over the phone, which I'm not mentioning, but you can probably work it out, she said, I want a divorce, and he said, well, if you want a divorce, you can have one then. And he wasn't going to let her divorce him after what she put him through and what she did to him. She doesn't deserve to have the right to divorce him. Over what? What did he do to her apart from love her and want to look after her and feed her and keep her safe and just be a good husband, and so he went through the courts and everything and did it all the proper procedures, the proper way to divorce her, and he separated, he moved out, and we knew it wasn't Dad going out for a drive and then coming back. We knew he was going to not come back. Obviously, we knew he was going to come back for me and Ryan, my brother. But we just knew that he wasn't going to live with us anymore. When you just know. We're at an age where we just know what's going on. We don't really know what's going on, but we had an idea that he wasn't going to live with us. And we could tell, not only because their attitudes were different. He had bags packed, and my mum was really nasty. She had black bags full of his CDs. She would chuck them out, chucked out his computer, and I think, what a cheek. You put him through all that because you're jealous that he's smarter than you. You put him through all that to make it look like he was the bad one, and then you play the victim card. I love my mum, but I don't like her. I don't like everything she does and how she does everything, and she's not the most favourite person in my life, but she's still my mum, and sometimes I need her. She's not been the best example and the best this and that for me and my brother, but sometimes you just think, do you know what? I'm lucky that I have parents, and she cares in her own little way. She's not like she used to be, which I am gonna talk about my mum in a second. I didn't know whether to talk about the divorce and then my mum, to make it two separate videos, but I think they connect. Just put them in the same video. So I'll talk about her in a sec, but so a few years later, they both finally got their divorce. They had their divorce papers. They obviously both celebrated that they were divorced. And my mum was overjoyed, but I just think, I don't think you really loved him anyway. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, you can't really love that person. I mean, if you're marrying them because you love them. You commit your life. You want the rest of your life with them. You just love them. You see a future with them. You eventually want babies, and you want to die knowing you've been married to them all these years. I don't know. All what my parents went through with the divorce, it's always scared me into thinking, what if I go through that? But then it's not stopped me. You've got to get on with it. As harsh as what's happened, and as bad as what's happened, you've still just got to get on with it. And a lot's happened between then and now. And between their divorce, their separation, and then later on their divorce, our mum, mine and Ryan's mum, I'll say my mum because it's my story, put us through hell, can we say. And when we were young, if my mum didn't have what she wanted, she always threatened to my dad, oh, you're never allowed to see the kids again. Childish stuff like that. Sorry, I'm really trying not to cry. I wrote everything down that happened during this separation and divorce. I wrote everything down so I'd let out how I would feel but not hurt anyone, to try and help me cope and get over it. And every time I think I am over it, I then talk about it like I am now, and I'm finding it hard. I'm gonna cry on camera. I know I will because it's hard, but I'm sorry for this bad eye look. I rubbed it forgetting I had makeup on. That's the thing with being a girl. Once you've done your makeup, you gotta get used to not touching your face. And I'm literally keep touching my face. But there was lots of incidences like that. There was so many times we were given our dad's number on our first phones that Mum gave us one Christmas. And every Wednesday, I'll never forget it, every Wednesday, I think at 6 o'clock, he would phone us to see how we're doing, how we've been, a little catch-up time with Dad and kids, and it was great. But if Mum didn't always get what she wanted, or we played her up, or whatever, rude to her, I have to do this, then she would confiscate our phones. She would delete Dad's number off our phones. So in the end, our dad had a particular tune in the car for us to learn his number to, and that's why we know his number off my heart, which I'm not going to say, obviously. I'm going to get comments saying, no. It was lots of tedious stuff like that. There was this one occasion the worst occasion that ever happened, I was thinking, do I include it in this video, do I not? And I just think, I need to say it, because if I don't say it, it'll be stuck in my head. And it is the fact that there was this one time with our new phones, the ones we got for Christmas, it was a Samsung, and I've always had Samsung apart from right now I've got Huawei, which I love. It's a really good phone company. Anyway, we're not here about phones. And we thought to ourselves, let's show Dad our new phones. And it was our first phone that we had with a camera. And honestly, it was amazing. We felt like we were the king of the castle. Like, the first phone with a camera. Wow. We were like, it was the most amazing thing in the world to us at the time. And our mum said a lot of swearing. You're not effing taking that to your dad's. You're not doing this, blah, blah, blah. And it escalated. She got angrier and angrier. Really, really angry. And then she started getting physical. So this is the story that I know is going to make me cry, because this is real, guys. It's not brought on for views like some people might think. It's actually real. She physically stopped us from getting out of the house. She didn't hurt us. We didn't feel hurt or anything, but we were scared that it was going to get that way. And it didn't, which it's good. But anyway, my brother Ryan, he was really scared. So he accidentally pocket called or bun called, whatever it's called, Dad. And he obviously didn't realise that he was on the phone, that he was phoning him. And he left a voicemail. The voicemail picked up all the screaming and shouting that sounded so scary that actually playing it back today really scares me. He was only 9 and I was only 8, and it's scary even that age, you know? And I remember it being so bad. My dad was so worried for the both of us that he had to call the police, because he didn't know what was going to happen next. He was worried for us, because he was sat in the car with all the doors and windows closed, and he could hear her. And he was parked outside, but he was quite a little bit away from the house. And for him to hear it, it was hard for him. It was heartbreaking for him to hear his children really, really horrifically crying, to the point where it was snot crying, nearly vomit crying. It was horrific. And my brother and he managed to get us safe. The police said, get them away from the house. Have them in the car, shut them in the car. Don't lock them in, because them being in the car and not being able to get out, they couldn't get out the house for them to not get out the car. So he said, just shut them in there. Don't lock it if they want to come out, But the first thing we did was we ran to hug and squeeze and not want to let go of Dad. And he said, you two need to sit in the car for a minute, let the police do what they need to do. They went over to Mum. She was still screaming and shouting. And soon as Dad got in the driver's seat to allow the police to, I don't want to say deal with Mum because that's nasty, but to chat with her and calm her down and find out her version of the story on, what had happened, because we, for, all they knew, we could have been, I don't know, just they needed to do their thing with Mum. And I calmed down a little bit, but we were both really shaking. And my brother, he was crying, and I remember his exact words. He turned round to my dad in the car and said, "Now you see the real problem." And it still gets me today because this is honestly it's so real. And after a while with voicemails, they don't stay on the phone. I don't know what they're like today, but this was you're talking years ago. You're talking 2008, 2009. So my dad's got a friend who's amazing with computers, technology in general. And he managed to get the voicemail from Ryan onto a disc, so that if my dad ever needed to take my mum to court, if we ever needed to live with him before 16, then he would have the evidence, the proof that it had happened, and my mum can't lie and say, well, that didn't happen. Well, we know it did because he's got the proof. And he wanted to make sure that he had more than one copy, so he gave a copy disc to my grandparents and my aunt and uncle. They and my dad have all still got a copy. I doubt they need it now, but you never know. You just don't know. That is probably the hardest story I've ever had to tell, to put online. And it still gets me today because I still hear it in my head, and it's never left my head. Never ever left my head. And there's so many stories to tell. There's too many. I'm not going to tell all of them because I could be here all day if I was to tell all of them. But there was this one time that my mum had asked Ryan to do something, and he said he refused to do it for, I don't know what the reason was. I don't know. You know what some kids are like. When their parents says to do something, they rebel and say, no, I'm not doing that. But I think she wanted him to put a certain outfit on or wear something that she wanted him to wear. But he wasn't very comfortable with wearing it and said no. And she had said to him, go upstairs to your room, and she was cross. And she said, I'm still cross. And she said, right, you've been up there, come downstairs. And she was really loud and was very, you will come downstairs and you will come now, right now. And I came with him because I naturally just went wherever Ryan went. Being an older brother, I looked up to him, being younger, it's what you do. And this was really upsetting for Ryan, really. And I remember my mum being really cross with him. And she was going through the yellow pages. Comment down below if you remember the yellow pages. Because I do. It started off with this really big, really thick, yellow, fat book. But they got smaller and smaller and thinner over the years. And she was going through the yellow pages. And I remember her saying to him, that you've really annoyed me and you won't do as you're told. You've made me that angry, Ryan. I'm going through the yellow pages to find a home. I want you put in a care home because I've had enough." And Ryan was so sure and so scared that she was gonna actually put him into care. Sorry. That he had gone upstairs back to his bedroom, into his bed, on his bed. I was scared for him. I thought, I don't want to lose Ryan. Scared I was going to lose my only sibling. And he phoned either my dad or my grandparents, whoever it was. They were together at the time. And I remember my grandma saying, "Ryan, darling, do you hear me? We won't ever let anyone do anything. And no one will ever take you away. Do you hear me, Ryan?" And he was in so much hysterics. Even my dad said, "No one will ever take you away, sweetheart." And he was actually really scared that he was going to get put into a kid's home, like care, or, and I was scared that I was going to lose my only sibling. So they even said to me that they won't let anyone take me away either. I wasn't threatened to get put in a kid's home. Ryan was, but they reminded me as well. And there's loads of stories. I'm not going to go any further because we're already over 30 minutes. And I've not always got on with my mum due to, things. And I do want to do a separate video about my bullying. I will include my mum into it because she falls under that as well, unfortunately. A small snippet of my bullying video. The first thing I want to mention that will be mentioned again in the video is that I would be bullied by my mum at home, to go to school, to be bullied again, to go home to my mum, to start all over again. And my parents' divorce, it also, not only did it go through the court, but they had a court agreement on which parent would have the kids on which weekend. And they both agreed on it. Both mum and dad signed it. Dad's solicitor and mum's solicitor also signed it to say, this is what we've agreed to, this is what we're going to stick to, and this agreement is what is best, not for us, but for the children, me and Ryan at the time. And my mum tried to change it so many times just because she wanted it convenient for her, not what was best for me and Ryan, the kids at the time. And, it did also get to the point where my dad wasn't allowed to pick Ryan up from school anymore because they talk. And my mum she put a stop to that for a while. She didn't want them talking. Ryan possibly spilling the beans to dad about things that went on at home. And the courts have always been the old-fashioned type that always said dad should be going to work providing, the kids need to stay at home with mum. Unless it was so bad we had no choice but to not live with mum. But ever since I was 18 and then later on 14 years old, I wanted to live with dad, and I would say so did Ryan. I remember asking him, and when he said, "No, you can't at the moment, darling, you're not old enough to be able to move out, to live with me," and I burst into tears not because I was the typical child that got told no, maybe a little bit, but it was more, I was so desperate to be with him. And ever since I was 16, literally, I've lived with Dad. Ryan and I both, we didn't hang about. We both moved out on our birthday as soon as we turned 16, literally on the dot. And he recently moved out to go back with Mum. Funny, after all we went through, he chooses Mum. But that's because he's had his own issues here, and my dad gave him an ultimatum. If you don't do blah by this in certain things, you would have consequences. And he knows that Mum's, it's an easy life. He would get what he wants when he wants. And she's a bit of a pushover, and I hate to say it. But that is all I want to reveal about how I feel, and a small story of what's happened with parents' divorce, how it's made me feel. You know, I haven't said all of it, I've just said a small story. There's so much more. If you guys do want a part 2, I will do it when I'm ready though. It's taken me a long time to be ready to do even this much. But hopefully you've understood and got to know me a bit better, and it's hopefully answered questions that you guys have had, because you guys have often asked me, why am I with Dad? Why is there no Mum in the picture? Why do I not talk much? But hopefully that's explained a little bit more. I've tried not to go into too much depth, but it's already a long video. But I really hope, I can't say you've enjoyed. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you ever so much for watching, taking time out to understand a bit more about me and my life, and yeah. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful day and a lovely week, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.